The Viran exploration vessel, Celestial Seeker, slipped into Earth's solar system with barely a ripple in the fabric of space. Its scanners swept across the third planet from the unremarkable yellow star, cataloging data with cold efficiency. "Another life-bearing world," announced Nav, the ship's navigator, her slender blue fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "Oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere, carbon-based life forms, Level 3 technological development." Commander Dell moved to the observation deck, his four eyes blinking in sequence as he studied the blue-green planet below. "Run a full atmospheric analysis." The ship's AI complied instantly. Data streams flowed across the screens, numbers and chemical compositions flickering faster than most species could comprehend. But the Virans, with their highly evolved neural pathways, processed the information effortlessly until the anomalies appeared. "Commander," called Tech, the chief science officer, her voice pitched higher than normal. "These readings can't be correct." Dell glided across the deck, his anti-gravity harness humming softly. "Explain." "The atmosphere contains significant levels of pollutants. Carbon dioxide at 420 parts per million, methane, nitrogen oxides, sulfur compounds, particulate matter." Tech's voice trailed off as she recalibrated the sensors. "And the radiation levels, they're far above what should be compatible with advanced life." Dell's skin shifted from its normal lavender to a concerned pale blue. "Run the scan again." 3. More scans confirmed the initial findings. The dominant species, bipedal mammals with minimal physical defenses, were living in conditions the Virans classified as borderline toxic. "It's impossible," whispered Tech. "No species should be able to evolve higher intelligence in such an environment. The constant cellular damage alone should prevent complex neural development." Nav zoomed in on a coastal city. "Their structures suggest they've been technologically active for at least several millennia. And look, they build directly in zones of tectonic instability, volcanic activity, and extreme weather patterns." "Perhaps they don't know better," suggested Dell, though his tone lacked conviction. Ren, the cultural specialist, joined them at the view screen. "They appear to be deliberately clustering in these danger zones. The largest population centers correspond precisely with coastal areas prone to flooding, seismic regions, and weather-unstable territories." "How is this possible?" Dell murmured, Tech's eyes narrowed in thought. "Perhaps their perception of danger differs from ours. Maybe they don't recognize these threats." Nav shook her head, bringing up historical data. "No, they document their disasters extensively. They're fully aware of the dangers." Dell turned to face his crew, decision made. "We've encountered something unprecedented. These humans appear physically unremarkable, no natural weapons, average strength, limited sensory capabilities, yet they thrive in conditions that would kill most sentient species we've encountered." "Should we make contact?" asked Ren. "Not yet," Dell replied. "We need to understand them better first. Tech, I want a comprehensive analysis of their biology and how it interacts with this environment. Nav, map their spread across the planet's hazard zones. Ren, collect data on their social structures." As the crew dispersed to their tasks, Dell remained at the view screen, watching the seemingly fragile creatures move about their daily lives, oblivious to the toxic soup they breathed with each breath. These humans were either remarkably resilient or remarkably foolish. Either way, they warranted closer study than the standard protocol dictated. "Begin passive observation," he commanded. "Priority level 1. The Celestial Seeker shifted into a higher orbit, cloaking systems engaged, sensors trained on the blue planet below. The unremarkable-looking species had just become the most interesting discovery of their expedition. 3 cycles passed as the Virans observed Earth from orbit. Each new data point only deepened their confusion. They consume known carcinogens voluntarily, reported Tech, displaying footage of humans drinking alcohol and caffeine beverages. They intentionally exposed themselves to radiation for cosmetic purposes. The screen showed beachgoers basking in the sun, and they've adapted their dwellings to compensate for atmospheric toxicity rather than attempting to purify their environment. Dell studied the images with growing fascination. How do their bodies manage the constant cellular assault? That's the remarkable thing, Tech replied, bringing up cellular scans. They have integrated repair mechanisms. Their DNA can mend itself after damage, and their immune systems are astonishingly robust, capable of identifying and neutralizing countless foreign bodies. Ren joined them, carrying her own reports. Their social structures reflect their physical resilience. They actively seek out challenges, deliberately placing themselves in situations requiring adaptation. They have psychological constructs centered around overcoming adversity that appear central to their cultural development. Perhaps we're overthinking this, suggested Nav. They might simply have no choice but to adapt to these conditions. Tech shook her head emphatically. No, that's what I initially thought. But look at this. She pulled up historical atmospheric data. They've been deliberately modifying their own atmosphere for centuries, introducing compounds they know are harmful. Self-destructive behavior? Asked Dell. I thought so too, Ren interjected. But their literature, art, and philosophy all contain recurring themes of struggling against difficult circumstances and emerging stronger. They appear to thrive on challenge itself. Tech's skin rippled with excitement as she brought up new data. I've identified something remarkable in their genetic structure. They possess unprecedented epigenetic adaptability. Their gene expression changes in response to environmental pressures within a single lifetime. That should be impossible for a species at their evolutionary stage, whispered Dell. Precisely, agreed Tech. And look at this. Their cellular structures show signs of adaptation to radiation, pollutants, and extreme temperature variations. They're actively evolving in response to the very toxins they're producing. The command deck fell silent as the UAE implications sank in. I need to study them more closely, Tech said finally. Permission to deploy atmospheric probes and collect biological samples? Dell considered the request. Granted, but maintain strict non-detection protocols. These humans are more intriguing than we initially believed. Over the next cycle, the probes descended silently into Earth's atmosphere, collecting samples of air, water, soil, and when possible, discarded human biological material. Each sample returned with the same puzzling results. The humans had adapted to pollutants and radiation levels that would cause immediate cellular breakdown in most species, including the Virans. It's as if they've co-evolved with toxins, Tech explained during the next briefing. Their cellular machinery processes these compounds differently than any species we've encountered. What's toxic to us has become almost necessary for them. Necessary? Questioned Dell. Their gut biome contains microorganisms that process compounds we'd classify as poisons. Their respiratory systems filter particulates that would cause our breathing membranes to dissolve. Even their skin has adapted to block radiation frequencies that would damage our cellular structures instantly. Ren looked troubled. If they've adapted to these conditions, perhaps we're wrong to consider their environment toxic at all. Maybe it's simply different. No, Tech said firmly. By any objective measure, their atmosphere contains compounds that damage living tissue. The difference is that humans have evolved to repair the damage and even utilize some of these compounds. They don't just survive in this environment, they've weaponized it as part of their own biology. Dell's skin shifted to a deep purple of respect. Then we need to understand not just what they are, but how they became this way. Expand the observation parameters. I want to know everything about these resilient creatures. Nex, the most junior, scientist aboard the Celestial Seeker, volunteered for the most dangerous assignment: direct surface observation. Unlike the others, who watched humans through remote technology, Nex would experience Earth firsthand. The environmental suit will protect you for 12 hours maximum, Tech warned as she helped Nex into the specialized gear. After that, the filters will begin to fail, and Earth's atmosphere will penetrate the protection layers. Nex nodded, excitement overriding apprehension. I understand the risks. Remember, Commander Dell added, absolute non-interference. Observe only. At the first sign of detection or suit integrity failure, activate your emergency return beacon. The drop pod delivered Nex to a secluded mountain forest before dawn. As the first rays of sunlight filtered through the trees, Nex took tentative steps on the alien soil. Despite the protective suit, the scientist could feel the planet's higher gravity pulling at every movement. Following pre-programmed coordinates, Nex made his way toward a small human settlement nestled in the valley below. His sensors detected the atmospheric composition. Oxygen levels that would cause oxidative damage to Viran tissues, nitrogen compounds that would trigger respiratory failure, microscopic biological particles that would overwhelm their immune systems. Yet humans breathed this mixture effortlessly. By mid-morning, Nex reached the outskirts of the settlement, a town according to their linguistics database. Finding an observation position among the trees overlooking the community, Nex activated high-resolution recording equipment and settled in to watch. The humans moved with surprising energy given their environment. Children ran and played in the open air, their lungs processing the toxic brew with every breath. Adults performed physical labor under the radiation of their sun without apparent concern for the DNA damage they were surely accumulating. Most fascinating were their consumption habits. Nex watched as humans gathered in eating establishments, consuming substances that contained known toxins, caffeine, alcohol, processed sugars, artificial preservatives, all while engaging in social bonding behaviors. They're ingesting compounds that would kill us instantly, Nex reported via the secure communication link, and they appear to derive pleasure from it. Through specialized audio equipment, Nex could hear their conversations. They discussed ordinary concerns, work obligations, family matters, community events, showing no awareness of the remarkable resilience their bodies demonstrated with every breath and movement. As the day progressed, Nex observed humans engaged in voluntary stress activities they called exercise, deliberately straining their cardiovascular and muscular systems beyond comfortable limits. Rather than conserving energy, a universal biological imperative, they expended it freely, even recreationally. More puzzling still was their reaction to minor injuries. A child fell, scraping its integument against the rough ground. The wound bled briefly, then began healing almost immediately. The child's distress was momentary. Minutes later, it resumed its activities as if nothing had happened. Their healing rate exceeds our projections, Nex reported. Cellular regeneration appears to be baseline, not exceptional among them. When rain began to fall, water mixed with atmospheric pollutants, the humans simply covered themselves with protective garments and continued their activities. Some even removed their coverings and allowed the contaminated water to touch their skin directly. As evening approached, bringing a temperature drop that would stress most species' thermoregulatory systems, the humans simply added layers of clothing and continued outdoor activities. Some gathered around controlled combustion sources, campfires, breathing in additional particulate matter voluntarily. They don't just tolerate environmental stressors, Nex realized, speaking quietly into the recorder. They seek them out. Every behavior I've observed today suggests they require regular exposure to conditions we would classify as harmful. When the suit's integrity warning chimed, signaling 8 hours of exposure, Nex reluctantly prepared to return to the extraction point. Just before leaving, the scientist noticed a human gathering plants from the forest edge. Plants containing compounds their database flagged as medicinal. They're not just surviving in this toxic soup, Nex transmitted to the ship. They're harnessing it. The very compounds that should destroy them have become tools in their biochemical arsenal. As the extraction pod carried Nex back to the Celestial Seeker, the junior scientist felt a profound shift in perspective. The humans weren't victims of their harsh environment. They were its masters. The Viran High Council chamber hummed with subdued conversation as the delegates reviewed the data from the Celestial Seeker. Floating in their gravity cradles, the 12 elder Virans, their skin the pale white of advanced age, studied the reports with expressions of disbelief. These readings must be flawed, announced Elder Mav, the oldest and most respected member of the Council. No sentient species could evolve in such conditions. Commander Dell stood firm before them, his posture respectful but unyielding. We have verified the data through multiple independent systems. The humans not only survive, but thrive in their environment. Projected above the central table, holographic images displayed humans engaged in activities that made several council members recoil. Extreme sports showing humans deliberately risking physical harm. Medical procedures where they intentionally induced unconsciousness to perform surgery. Warriors training in combat, despite lacking natural armor or weapons. They appear almost designed for adversity, observed Elder Lear, leaning forward to study the images more closely. As if their evolution selected specifically for adaptation rather than specialization. Precisely, agreed Tech, who stood beside Dell. Their entire biological system prioritizes recovery over prevention. Rather than evolving to avoid damage, they've evolved to repair it at an unprecedented rate. Elder Mav's skin darkened with concern. And you believe they are unaware of their unique resilience? They recognize they can endure hardship, Dell replied. But they have no context for comparison with other sentient species. They consider themselves fragile because they measure themselves against their planet's apex predators, not against the galactic standard for intelligent life. The council chamber fell silent as the implications settled over the assembly. What do you propose? Asked Elder Lear finally. The standard protocols for discovering pre-FTL civilizations are insufficient in this case, Dell stated. These humans represent a unique evolutionary pathway we've never encountered before. I request permission to establish monitored contact with select representatives to better understand their adaptability. Elder Mav's 4 eyes blinked in alarmed sequence. Out of the question. We cannot risk contaminating their development. With respect, Elder, interjected Nex, stepping forward despite protocol. I believe we misunderstand the situation. The humans aren't developing toward our standard of civilization. They're developing along an entirely different path. What we see as hostile, they see as normal. What we consider toxic, they've incorporated into their biology. Murmurs rippled through the council as Nex continued. Their history shows countless near-extinction events, ice ages, supervolcanoes, asteroid impacts, pandemics, yet they've survived each one. Not through technological advancement alone, but through biological and social adaptation. All the more reason to help them, declared Elder Sev, speaking for the first time. If they've achieved this level of development despite such adversity, imagine what they could accomplish in proper conditions. I propose a rescue initiative. Rescue? Questioned Tech. Yes, Elder Sev continued, warming to the idea. We could establish atmospheric purification centers on their world, begin gradual detoxification of their environment, perhaps even offer relocation to suitable worlds within our protected zones. Dell exchanged concerned glances with his science team. Elder, with respect, I don't believe the humans would consider this help. Their entire civilization is built upon overcoming environmental challenges. Their mythology, religions, art, all celebrate the struggle against adversity. Removing that struggle might destroy the very essence of what makes them human. Nonsense, dismissed Elder Sev. All sentient beings desire comfort and safety. Not these beings, Nex said quietly but firmly. They intentionally seek out discomfort as a path to growth. Their most celebrated individuals are those who endured the greatest hardships. The debate continued for hours, with the council ultimately splitting into 2 factions. Those who viewed humans as victims needing rescue from their harsh environment, and those who recognized their unique adaptation as an evolutionary marvel, to be respected. In the end, Elder Mav made the final decision. We will proceed with a limited rescue operation. Establish purification centers in 3 small regions, present ourselves as benefactors, and observe how the humans respond to truly habitable conditions. As they left the council chamber, Tech whispered to Dell, They don't understand. The humans won't perceive this as rescue. No, agreed Dell grimly, they'll see it as an invasion, and based on what we've observed of their history, they don't respond well to those. Dr. Avery Marsh stared at the satellite data with growing concern. The atmospheric readings from the northern Pacific showed impossible anomalies. A perfect circle of altered air composition, 30 kilometers in diameter, moving slowly toward the North American coastline. "Run it again," she instructed her team at the Global Atmospheric Monitoring Station. "And check for instrument malfunction." 10 minutes later, the results remained unchanged. Within the circle, carbon dioxide levels had dropped to pre-industrial levels. Particulate matter had vanished. Even naturally occurring compounds were being altered to create what appeared to be the most pristine air sample recorded in modern history. "It's like someone's scrubbing the atmosphere," muttered Dr. Marsh's colleague, Dr. Ray Wilson. "But that's beyond our current technology." "Someone's technology," Avery replied quietly. "But maybe not ours." Within hours, the phenomenon had been confirmed by 3 separate monitoring systems. Government agencies worldwide activated emergency protocols while attempting to maintain public calm. Military satellites reoriented to track the moving anomaly, which maintained its steady course toward the Pacific Northwest. In Washington, the hastily assembled response team included atmospheric scientists, military strategists, linguists, and diplomatic experts. Among them was Dr. Marsh, summoned from her monitoring station to provide direct insights. "We're proceeding under the assumption that this represents first contact," announced General Harris, addressing the assembled specialists. "The question is, what do they want?" "They're changing our atmosphere," noted Dr. Wilson. "But not harmfully. They're purifying it beyond anything we could achieve." "Or what we would consider purification," Dr. Marsh added. "They're removing compounds that we've lived with for millennia. We don't know the biological implications of such a dramatic change." As the anomaly approached the coastline, a new development occurred. A smaller atmospheric disturbance detached from the main circle and accelerated toward land, making landfall near a sparsely populated section of the Oregon coast. Local authorities reported a structure materializing on an isolated beach, aimed a perfect dome of iridescent material, approximately 60 meters in diameter. No openings were visible, no communication attempted. It simply appeared and remained, the air around it growing increasingly purified. "We need to establish contact," Dr. Marsh insisted to the response team. "Whatever they're doing to our atmosphere, they clearly have technological capabilities far beyond ours. If they wanted to harm us, they could have done so already." After heated debate, a civilian contact team was assembled, scientists rather than military personnel, with Dr. Marsh leading the group. They approached the dome cautiously, carrying white flags both as a universal symbol of peace and to signal the wind direction through the increasingly still air surrounding the structure. 500 meters from the dome, Dr. Marsh felt her breathing change. The air tasted different, too clean, almost sterile. Several team members began coughing. "The air composition is changing too rapidly for our bodies to adjust," she realized, donning the emergency oxygen mask from her pack and signaling the others to do the same. "They may not understand our atmospheric requirements." As they reached the perimeter of the dome, a section of the wall suddenly became transparent, revealing figures inside, humanoid, but clearly not human. Taller, with blue-toned skin, and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. They appeared to be observing the humans with as much curiosity as they were being observed. Dr. Marsh removed her mask momentarily, took a deliberate breath of the altered air, then gestured to her chest and shook her head. She pointed to the normal atmosphere beyond the dome's influence, then took another breath and nodded affirmatively. The aliens conferred among themselves, their movements fluid and graceful. One approached the transparent section and raised a device. The air around the human team shimmered briefly, then stabilized. Dr. Marsh cautiously tested it without her mask. "It's back to normal composition," she confirmed to her team, her voice measured despite her racing heart. They understood. The transparent section of the dome dissolved inward, creating an opening. One of the aliens stepped forward, wearing what appeared to be a protective suit. It gestured toward Dr. Marsh with 4-fingered hands. "They want to talk," she said, stepping forward with more confidence than she felt. "And they've accommodated our atmospheric needs," rather than expecting us to adapt to theirs. Behind her, Dr. Wilson whispered, "That might be the most hopeful first contact sign possible. They recognize we're different, and they're meeting us where we are." "Let's hope that continues," Dr. Marsh replied, taking another step toward humanity's first official extraterrestrial contact. Inside the dome, the Viran delegation waited nervously as the human scientists underwent decontamination. Commander Dell observed from behind a protective barrier as Dr. Marsh and her team were bathed in purifying light designed to neutralize the toxic compounds permeating their bodies. "Their exposure levels are alarming," Tech noted, monitoring the readings. "Centuries of accumulated toxins in their tissues, yet they show no signs of distress." The decontamination cycle completed, and the humans were guided into the conference chamber, a neutral space designed according to their anatomy, with Earth-normal gravity and atmospheric composition. The humans removed their protective gear, hesitantly, testing the air with handheld devices before breathing freely. "Welcome," Dell greeted them through the translation system. "We are the Viran Cooperative, a peaceful alliance of worlds. We have come to offer assistance." Dr. Marsh stepped forward. "We appreciate your peaceful approach. I'm Dr. Avery Marsh, representing Earth's scientific community. May I ask what kind of assistance you're offering?" "Your world is suffering," Dell explained, projecting images of Earth's polluted cities, acidified oceans, and contaminated waterways. "Your atmosphere contains compounds harmful to biological life. We can help restore your environment to its natural state." The human scientists exchanged puzzled glances. "While we appreciate your concern," Dr. Marsh replied carefully, "these conditions, while not ideal, are well within our adaptive capacity. Our species has evolved alongside these changes." Dell persisted. "You don't understand. Your bodies contain alarming levels of toxins, heavy metals, synthetic compounds, radioactive particles. During decontamination, we measured over 200 substances in your tissues that would kill a Viran instantly." Dr. Wilson stepped forward. "With respect, perhaps that says more about Viran biology than human biology. We've adapted to our environment over thousands of generations. To demonstrate their benevolence, the Virans offered a gift, a temporary atmospheric purification zone, encompassing a small coastal town. Within this zone, all artificial pollutants would be neutralized, creating what the Virans considered perfect living conditions. The humans accepted the demonstration project while insisting on careful monitoring of health effects. 3 days later, the first reports arrived from the test zone, and they were not what the Virans expected. "Residents are experiencing respiratory distress, immune system hypersensitivity, and digestive disruptions," Dr. Marsh reported during their next meeting. "The children are showing the most severe symptoms." Dell's skin paled with distress. "Impossible. We've removed all harmful substances." "And therein lies the problem," explained Dr. Wilson. "Human biology has incorporated these substances into our functional systems. Our gut microbiome requires certain compounds you've eliminated. Our immune systems develop through exposure to particulates and pathogens. By purifying our environment completely, you've disrupted biological processes that evolved over millennia. To verify these claims, the Virans requested, and were granted, permission to transport several human volunteers to the Celestial Seeker for comprehensive medical evaluation. The results confirmed the humans' assertions. When placed in the sterile environment Virans considered ideal, human biological systems began to malfunction. Their immune responses become hyperactive without regular challenges, Tech reported, displaying the medical scans. Their respiratory efficiency decreases in air too pure. Even their neurological functions show subtle alterations in the absence of certain compounds we classified as toxins. Dell struggled to accept these findings. How can a species evolve to require poisonous substances? Perhaps they're not poisons to humans, suggested Nex. Perhaps we've been measuring them against the wrong standard. It's not that humans tolerate a toxic environment, it's that they require a complex one. The very diversity we feared is what enables their resilience. The evidence became undeniable when several Viran scientists, following strict protocols, briefly exposed themselves to Earth's unfiltered atmosphere. Within minutes, they developed symptoms requiring emergency medical intervention. The same air that humans breathed without effort caused severe systemic shock in Viran biology. "We came to rescue them," whispered Dell as the demonstration project was dismantled. "But they don't need rescuing. They've become something we never imagined possible. A species that transforms environmental challenges into biological advantages." Dr. Marsh approached Dell as the purification equipment was being removed. "Your intentions were admirable, but perhaps the greatest gift you can offer isn't changing our environment to match your standards, but helping us understand our unique adaptation within the galaxy." Dell's skin shifted to the deep purple of profound respect. "We came as teachers," he acknowledged, "but we find ourselves students instead." 1 year after first contact, the Joint Human-Viren Research Institute opened its doors on neutral territory, a repurposed oil platform in international waters. Here, scientists from both species worked to understand the remarkable differences and surprising similarities between their biologies. The platform featured 2 entirely separate environmental systems, one maintaining Earth-normal conditions for the human researchers, the other carefully filtered and regulated for the Viran delegation. Between these zones lay the collaboration spaces, where advanced environmental suits allowed both species to work together directly. Commander Dell, now serving as the Viran ambassador to Earth, toured the facility with Dr. Marsh, who had been appointed human liaison to the Viran Cooperative. "The gene sequencing lab has made remarkable progress," Dr. Marsh explained, as they observed scientists from both species working at separate but connected stations. "We've identified 53 genes unique to humans that enable our environmental adaptability. Most interesting is that these genes evolved relatively recently, within the last 100,000 years. Precisely when your planet entered a period of rapid climate fluctuation," noted Dell. "Your ice ages, volcanic winters, and meteorite impacts created evolutionary pressure unlike anything in our history. They moved to the atmospheric testing chamber, where volunteers from both species underwent controlled exposure experiments. Through transparent barriers, they watched as a human researcher breathed air with elevated carbon dioxide levels that would render a Viran unconscious within seconds. We've been analyzing your historical records," Dell said. "Your species has faced extinction-level events at least 7 times since achieving sentience. Each time, you not only survived, but integrated the very challenges that threatened you into your evolutionary advantage." "We never had a choice," Dr. Marsh replied. "We couldn't escape our environment, so we had to adapt to it. That's what makes humans unique in our experience," Dell explained. "Viran evolution followed a path of environmental consistency. When conditions on our homeworld became challenging, our ancestors migrated to regions that matched their biological requirements. Over millions of years, this created specialized adaptations to specific, stable conditions. While we were forced to become generalists," Dr. Marsh concluded, "adaptable rather than specialized, they reached the centerpiece of the facility, the Comparative Civilization Archive, where the histories of both species were displayed side by side. Viran history showed a remarkably stable progression of technological development with few setbacks. Human history, by contrast, revealed a chaotic pattern of advancement, collapse, and resurgence. Your council initially saw this as evidence of human inferiority," Dell admitted, gesturing toward the displays. "The repeated collapses of your civilizations seem to indicate fundamental flaws in your social structures. And now? Now we understand it's part of the same pattern as your biological adaptability. When Viran societies face existential challenges, they either overcome them through technology or disappear entirely. When human civilizations collapse, they seed the next renaissance. Your species doesn't just survive disaster, you integrate its lessons and emerge transformed." Dr. Marsh smiled. "We have a saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger." "A concept alien to Viran thinking," Dell acknowledged. "Until we met humans." In the communications center, they observed the first cultural exchange programs being transmitted across both worlds. Viran educators were learning about human resilience training, while human scientists were studying Viran environmental engineering principles. The Galactic Council has reached a decision, Dell announced as they completed their tour. Earth has been classified as a protected development zone. Not because you need protection from the galaxy, but because the galaxy needs to protect and study your unique evolutionary pathway. And the atmospheric purification project? Asked Dr. Marsh. Abandoned entirely, Dell confirmed. We now understand that what we perceived as helping would have fundamentally damaged human biology. Instead, we offer knowledge exchange, sharing our environmental management techniques while learning from your adaptive capabilities. As they stood on the observation deck overlooking the ocean, Dell's skin rippled with the blue patterns of deep contemplation. For millennia, the Viran Cooperative explored the galaxy seeking species that shared our biological foundations. We measured all life against our standards of habitability. And we failed those standards spectacularly, Dr. Marsh noted with amusement. No, Dell corrected her. You shattered our understanding of what standards should exist at all. Humans aren't just another species. You represent an entirely different approach to sentient evolution. The sun set over the horizon, casting golden light across the waves. On the platform behind them, humans and Virans continued their work, separated by environmental barriers, yet united in purpose. The universe is vast, Dell said quietly. Perhaps there are others like you, species that turned adversity into advantage, that transformed poisons into necessities, that discovered strength through struggle rather than avoidance. If they exist, Dr. Marsh replied, we'll find them, together. As night fell, lights activated across the platform, illuminating the joint venture that neither species could have imagined just 1 year before. In the depths of space, the Celestial Seeker prepared for its next mission. Carrying human researchers alongside its Viran crew for the first time, venturing out to discover what other miraculous adaptations the universe might contain. The initial dismissal of humans as weak had given way to a profound respect. The atmosphere that had once registered as toxic was now recognized as the crucible that had forged humanity's greatest strength. The ability to transform challenges into opportunities, to find strength in adversity, and to breathe life from what others considered poison.